times now, but I want to make sure everybody's clear. On the days that I'm teaching, you know, Wednesday was a strictly virtual day. So on those days, a lot of times I will post on Classroom if there's a video that I've created just for that day. I might post the link. But that doesn't mean on like a Tuesday when you guys aren't at school, if I didn't post a YouTube video on Classroom in the stream, that there isn't a video. Where do you have to go to get that? Yeah, go to your classwork, class documents. You should be checking this every day you aren't here. So you can see this is the video I gave you yesterday. This was the video from Tuesday when you weren't here. August 31st, that's the last time I saw you guys. So please check every day. I'm expecting you guys to do that. You know you can also look at your assignment tracker to see what I'm covering. If you think, oh, I wonder if she did anything today. How many days have we not done something though that you've had me? So you know I'm doing something. You can look and pull that up. So make sure you are staying caught up. You're getting your work every day. If you have any questions at all, please contact me. Don't come to me the next day and say, well, I didn't know if we had anything to do. I promise we did. If you're having trouble, send me an email so I can help you. We have one section left in this chapter. So that's 2.3. We are covering that today. Then tomorrow's group, we will be, I think I'm going to go ahead and do a quiz over chapter 2. Since half of you are here and half aren't, I'm just going to say if you want to use your book or something, you can. I'm going to go ahead and I'll give this to you guys at the end of class so you can use your resources, but no, the test you are taking in class with me watching you so you don't get anything then. So this will be graded as quiz just over the chapter 2 stuff. There are Google portions. You know, question number 1 tells you you're going to make relative frequency bar graph, pie chart. You could do that all by hand if you wanted to, but it's kind of silly when you can type it into sheets and just have it generated for you. So I will open up an assignment on Classroom where you can submit your Google Sheet portion, and then you will give this to me when I see you on Tuesday.
On the test, when we're going to get the graph on Google?
Yes, on the test, you will be using your Chromebook to do part of it on Google Sheets. And for that matter, when I ask you to make like a frequency distribution, if you want to type it on sheets instead of drawing the table by hand, that's fine. I don't care. Then I will also give you your study guide at the end of class today. I will be posting the answer key to this on Classroom as well, since I don't get to see you. I'll put that there. Typically, we have a work day before a test, but because I have to take 2 days to give the test, I'm not doing that. So that means you have to do the study guide on your own time, but the trade-off will be the day the other class takes their test, you get a free day. So is that fair? You have to do the study guide on your own time, but you get a free day later on. So it works out in the end. That will put your test then the next time I see you on Tuesday. So I will be posting that answer key probably today. So you can start working on that and checking it. And then it's on you to contact me if you have questions. Just because I'm not seeing you doesn't mean I don't want to help you. So please send me an email. If there's something that's really confusing you, we can set up a Google Meet or something and I can run through those questions with you. All right. Any questions for me on that stuff? Okay. So let's go through our last topic. We've been talking about all the different graphs that we might use, frequencies, relative frequencies, pie graphs, all of those. So we're just going to cover a couple more today. First thing, I do have a definition. The class midpoint is the sum of consecutive lower classes divided by 2. here's a frequency polygon. How about I just give you a minute to write down these definitions and then I'll talk about them. Explain that. And we're also going to be creating a frequency polygon. So this is just a graph where you plot your frequencies. We've done frequency bar graphs where we do the bars. This time we just use a dot to show the frequency of each group and connect them with a line. We will put our dot above the class midpoint for each, and at the end we have to connect our graph down to the horizontal axis. So I'm just going to pull up Google Sheets right now and show you an example here. So the other day when I had you in class, we had an example that had Old Faithful, right? And we were talking about time between eruptions, and we made this frequency distribution. We did frequency classes like this. So if I asked you to do the midpoint of each class, so I just told you it's found by taking the lower class limits and adding them up, dividing by 2. So that would be 670 plus 680 divided by 2, which is 675. That's my class midpoint. What is the class width on these? 10. So it's really just half of the class width. Now once you get the first one, you could keep following that formula to get all of the others, or we could just say, well, my class width is 10, so I'm going to add 10 to get each successive one. So 685, 695, 705, 715, 725, 735. All right, we counted up these frequencies the other day, so I'm just going to copy them down from what we did in class. Because remember, I gave you that table with all the different times, and we calculated those. We also did the relative frequencies that day. How do you find the relative frequencies? In general, what is a relative frequency? Yeah. It's like the percent. So you just take the frequency you saw divided by how many observations we had. So that's all the information we did in class the other day. If I ask for a percent, you're just taking that relative frequency and moving your decimal 2 places. So the percent for the first class would be 4.44%. They should add up to 100, but we know there's some rounding error since we're rounding our relative frequencies to 4 decimal places. Okay, so let's say I wanted a frequency polygon for my frequencies. We're going to make a polygon using the frequency. We could also do it with relative frequency. It says in the definition I gave you, what do we plot on the horizontal axis? What numbers do we put down here? I need to go back to my slide here. We put the midpoints on the horizontal axis. So you could do this by hand. Your x-axis you would plot 675, 685, and so forth. If I just try to do this using sheets, then I would want my midpoints and my frequencies. So if we go to Insert Chart, let's see what it gives us. Okay, so it gave us the bar graph. How can we change these to the different types? chart type, we have all of our options. So this one is what I'm looking for. However, we do need to change some things on it. I said that the frequency polygon has to connect to the x-axis. These ends don't connect to the x-axis, do they? So what I'm actually going to do is come back and I'm going to add 2 more points. So if you're using Google to do this, you actually have to make up 2 points. The class midpoint that would have came before 675 would be 665, and the one after would be 745. What should I make my frequency for both of those? 0, because I'm just connecting them to the x-axis. So now, does that look a little bit better? Yeah. That is our frequency polygon. We can change things on here. We can change the titles, like, remember all the different axes, maybe the horizontal axis. I don't really want that to be class midpoint. That was just the time that we were looking at. Frequency is fine. If you were doing the relative frequencies, we would have that. Maybe you want to change your chart title to time between eruptions. So whatever you want to do there, but you could change those things. So frequency polygon, we can do it on sheets. You do have to make up 2 more points, the midpoint before and after, and set both of those to 0 so it does connect to the axis. Are there any questions? No. The next type of distribution we have cumulative frequency and relative frequencies. They're essentially the same. All they're doing is not just telling you how many observations you had in that category, it's everything less than that category. So you're adding all the observations up to that point. Would be just to take that chart, that data I was already looking at, and just find these things. Is that okay? I think that'll make the most sense. So let's go back to my Google Sheet. Get that out of the way. All right, so if I wanted my cumulative frequency, do I need the first and the last for this? No, those were the ones that I made up just for my frequency polygon. So if those are confusing you, I can just delete them off. So cumulative frequency for the first one, it showed up 2 times, so I just have 2. The next class I have 0, so 2 plus 0, we still have 2 to this point. The next group showed up 7 times, so 7 plus the 2 we had previously brings me to 9. What would the next one be? 18, because we had 9 new observations. Add 9 more, we get 27. The next group we saw 11, so 38. The last group, add 7, we get 45. Remember on that example, if we did it, you probably don't, but there were 45 times that we recorded. So this should always end at however many observations you had. If I did the cumulative relative frequency, what should this end at? What should all the relative frequencies add up to? 1. So we should end at 1 with potential of some rounding error. So the first one was my 0.0444. The next relative frequency was 0, so if I add that, nothing changes. Now I have to add 0.1556. What do we get? 0.2. Add another 0.2, so we get 0.4. Add 0.5. Did I type this? This one is a typo. Sorry, this was supposed to be a 0.2. But again, when I added that earlier. Okay, so that would be a 0.6. Add your 0.2444 to that. And then add your 0.1556, and we get, so very, very close to 1. Slight rounding error there. All right, so the cumulative just means you're adding everything up to that point. Is that okay with everyone? So again, those tables, you can do them by hand. If you prefer to do it in sheets and just share that, submit that when you turn in the homework, that's fine as well. The last thing we need to talk about, it's a pretty short section, is time series data. Okay. Time series data is just when you find the value at different points in time. So, for instance, my son is in 3rd grade, and their experiment this week in science, they were soaking gummy bears in water and then learning how to measure them. So, his time series data would be when he measured his initial gummy bear, when he measured his gummy bear an hour later, when he measured it 2 hours later, and recorded the lengths at all those points in time. We can plot those, and all you're doing is just plotting the time when your variable is measured and the corresponding value. Just like the frequency polygon, these are connected with line segments, but you don't have to connect these down to the axis. So these don't start and end at 0. I just put an example up here. If you want me to actually go through creating it on Google, I'd be happy to. This table, I just have years from 1990 to 2007 and the closing value of the Dow Jones. I know this is kind of tiny to see. The years are at the bottom, and then it's just a dot for the value connected by a line. So it would be just like when we made our frequency polygon, except you don't have to add the 0 points above and below. You just actually do the line graph for those particular points. Are there any questions there? So that is the end of section 3. The assignment. Right here, we will go ahead and grade the 2.1 and 2.2 after you get this down. And then tomorrow, when you're not here, what are you supposed to be working on? Your quiz, and you also have the study guide to do over the weekend. But you'll get a free day on Wednesdays. So if you guys would get out your homework and a pen.